let's mess around with the old channel box. So we're going to start off today with a triangle. So I'll select that and I'll move that right over there. So if you see the shape here, right, I don't have any keyframes on it down here, but if you look up here, you can see the values of where it is in space, right? I just moved it, so now it's off origin. So if I was to grab this sucker and go 0, it'll knock it back to where it was when I first opened it. Okay, so we'll put a keyframe on there. Okay, so frame 1 is right here. We'll go to frame 72, and we'll move it this way. Okay, hit S, boom. So now we have keys moving like that, right? So if you look at the value here, we have starting at 0, going to 72. So the channel box is one of those things that you should keep an eye on when you're setting keyframes, because when you start working with more complicated rigs, you might see things that go into what we like into the negative. So let's say you're going to rotate this, right? We're going to go from frame 1, we have that kit set, and we're going to go to 72, and we're going to rotate it a bunch of times, right? So if we use our greater than, less than keys and go back and forth, it looks like it's doing nothing, right? It's exactly the same, right? It's exactly the same. Now, but if I play it, it's spinning a million times, right? So if you have a channel, and sometimes when people will move something, they'll accidentally rotate it and it'll start going way into the negative like this, and they don't want it to spin like that. Now, there's a couple of things you can do to get around things like that. Now, and we'll get into that later actually, but for now with the channel box, a good idea is to lock certain things out that you don't want to animate. Now, let's say I give you an assignment and I say from frame 1 to frame 72, I want you to translate only in one channel, right? I want you to translate in X. That's all we're going to use, right? So let's actually go here and we'll get rid of this frame here. See, we're going to go back to frame 72, and I'm going to grab this, I'm going to hit 0, and it'll reset it. So now it's back to, it's flat. Excuse me. So now let's say you're only animating X. You can go in here, select everything, and you can go to your channels, and then you can do lock selected. Now these cannot be animated, no matter what. If I do this, see, I can't move it. It will not let me do that. This is a very valuable tool when you're animating cameras, because you can throw your camera way off, and then you're like, oh no, it's out in outer space. How do I get back to where I was? Well, that's one of the important things about keyframing, honestly. You want to make sure that you keyframe things and set your cameras properly, which I'll get into a little bit later. But we'll do that. So I'll select the camera, right? So you see right here, there's no keyframes on it. So I'm going to, frame 1, I'm going to hit S. Now you look at all these things down here. You're not really going to be messing with any of this stuff, but you can. But if you look at, where is it? Focal length is set to 100, right? So I'm going to go ahead and lock these guys. Lock selected. Where's lock selected? Right there. Lock. Okay, so I can only move the camera. Actually, I'm not going to scale it either, so I'll lock that. Visibility, I'm going to lock that too. And let's say I move over here and I'll move the camera, whoops, way out in outer space, right? So now all of a sudden the camera's like, whoa, where'd it go? Where's my stuff? I can't find it, right? Well, if you have it selected, your object, hit F. That way, that's one way to get back to it. Like that, it'll pop you back to it. Now, it's going to still mess your camera up, and especially since we have auto key on. So if you look at this, see, I have the camera keyed here, so it'll set us back to where it was. So if you look at this though, now it's like, whoa, it's out in outer space. So remember, if you're ever animating, like in the perspective view, like you're animating in a different view here, because we have the 4 view like this, you can see it here, right? So you just go back to this, you select that, and then you hit F in this one, it'll take you back to your origin. So if you guys ever get lost and you're like, oh my God, I can't find the thing because I moved the camera by accident or whatever, just go back to one of the orthographics. It'll still be right by where it was. Select the object, hit F, and it'll bring you right back to it, okay? So that being said, when you're animating with a camera, like we are right here, this camera is set up. So view, select camera. I'll go up here and I'll delete all this stuff so we're not out in outer space. Delete. Okay, so now we're back to square one. We will lock the camera. So I'll go here and I will lock selected. Now, focal length is something that you can do to, like you guys have watched movies your whole life, so you understand, probably a lot of you know 35 millimeter is what is the standard. I put it up to 100 to really flatten out the space, but when you're animating anything, you always want to have your parameters locked with the camera so you don't screw up what you already had. Like if you have something set up like for a piece of animation, you set your camera up, unless there's a camera move on it and it is animated, you just want to lock it so you keep it locked like that. So that's how you do it. Now, let's say you have this selected and you want to keyframe this using the channel box. I never do this, ever. The only time I've ever done that is when Maya was acting crazy and I wouldn't let me use the S key. Okay, so or auto tangent for usually I just close down Maya. But let's just say you have something and you do not want to lose it. So let's say you have it right here. This is the magical keyframe. It's going to save the universe. If you don't want to lose it, you want to put a key on it. You can just go here, right mouse, key selected. Right? Very simple. Those are really the only things I think you would use. Let me see. For what we're doing, at least. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't use hide selected. The only thing I use is lock and then unlock. So then let's say we want to go back now and we want to animate, rotate, let's see, rotate X, right? So we'll go here and then we'll go unlock. Boom. So now we can animate X like this. But that's the only channel, right? Because we locked everything else. It's a good thing to do if you don't want to lose your spot, especially with cameras. Whenever I set up a camera like that, I lock it. So if I have a camera, like, you know, for when you guys get into animating projects and you have to set your camera up for your character and stage it and all that, once you get the camera where you like it, you lock it. And then you can always go back, unlock it, move it, and then lock it again. It's a good way to keep yourself from screwing up your... Because I've seen a lot of students who actually make a camera, set it up, and then move it by accident, and then they have to redo it all over again because they didn't lock it. All right. Thanks, guys.